This is Edward Bevilacqua here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Don't need to say that part. Everybody knows, everybody in the world knows where Las Vegas is. One of the 7 great cities of the world. So we're here at Novum-U to discuss day 2 of employment planning workshop, the resume. A little historical background. It's November 20th, 2018. It's getting a little bit colder, a little bit darker in the mornings. Probably in the next 30 days it will be dark outside of communities and cold. I might be here with a classroom or a new classroom with a desk. That's just a little personal stuff. Okay, so employment planning workshop. So at Novum-U, our goal, our purpose, our reason for existing is to help people who are struggling to become successful. That's it. Through education, employment, housing, and counseling. That's what we do. And, you know, the first couple words, struggling adults, might be distasteful to people, but what's the first part of AA and NA is to admit that something's not right. And so, you know, that's who we're after, is motivated people who don't have meaningful and purposeful lives. Often they have a feeling of uselessness, they're not contributing to society, so there's problems. And you know, when people objectively look back at this, it's really often not the person it started with. They were not able to take care of themselves, and it's a multi-generational thing. So we don't have any issue about the cause of things. Our focus is on how do we take the reality of today and make it better so people can lead. So people can be successful, have the tools and techniques for success. In our program, our school, success means having money plus meaning and purpose. Success, money plus meaning and purpose. Money is just the ability to do more. Money is just a tool, just enables people to experience more. Money is not good, money is not bad, it's like a hammer. It's how you use it that makes the difference. A hammer can be used to make things, and it can be used to break things. So money is the same thing. You get in trouble if you think that money is the root of all evil. You get in trouble if you think that lack of money is the root of all evil. You get in trouble if you think that having money is going to make you happy, etc. Or that not having money is going to make you happy. Money is what money does. So, and meaning and purpose for our definition is service to others. And what we can all do on that is sacrifice. Sacrifice what? Well, we can sacrifice our time to help other people's lives improve with no expectation of return. So that's what we do. And our program is 4 weeks. This is week number 4, employment planning workshop. So we start with week 1, overview and orientation. Week number 2 is inside our school-sized kingdom. How do our brains work? Week number 3 is outside our school-sized kingdom. How do we get other people to do what we want? And week number 4 is putting it all together for a practical purpose, which is employment. And right now, the employment we're focused on with our people is foundational employment, not career employment, foundational employment. This is the thing to build a resume as people are either A, trying to figure out what they want to do for a career, or B, in the Kerry Green stage 3, which is to figure out who do you need to become to have the career that you want. And for our students, it would not be a good assumption to make that you are already the person you need to be to become for the career that you want. So yesterday was kind of an overview of the 6 steps of our employment planning workshop. Today is going to be the resume, and tomorrow will be an interview, and then put our plan together. So quickly, the 6 steps again. Step 1, what do you want to do? This is the hardest part for most people because most people have never thought about the idea that they could have any career they want to have. Most people think of work as a negative thing because they grew up in a household where their parents had to work and they had jobs that they didn't really like. They had to do. So what do you want to do? And then to follow that would be why you want to do it. Because if you don't have a good reason why you want to do it, you might end up getting it and then find out, oops, that's not what I wanted all along. And then the third step is who do you need to become to be that person? And so the follow-up to that would be, are you willing to do what it takes to become the person you need to be to have the position you want? Step one. Step two, find 3 to 5 companies that do that. Not hard to do with the internet. 3, research them. How much? Well, the goal should be to know more about the company than the person interviewing you. That becomes vitally important because you have to convince them that you really want to work there. And if you don't know much about the company, it's not really going to be compelling that you really want to work there versus you just want a job. And everything else equal, ceteris paribus, Latin, everything else equal, they're going to choose the people who are more passionate about the job that they also have to like. Step 4, create the plan. The plan is Seth Godin telling a story, a compelling story, Simon Sinek compelling story of why they should hire you. And adding David Phillips into that. Step 5 is executing the plan. And step 6 is getting a job, probably a foundational job, something to pay the bills until the first thing comes in. So an example of that would be people who are actors before they get their first break, in quotes break, rock and roll quotes break, before they get their first break are often waiters. They work in restaurants. Why? Easy. They can quit without a lot of notice, don't need a lot of training. They can practice. They're acting there. Cash, decent money, could be good money. And it's easy. When I was in law school, a lot of guys, bartenders. Why? Well, it's a great mental break from the stress and strain of law school. But what do you need to do to be a good lawyer? Well, you have to have a good memory. You have to be a good storyteller. You have to understand people. What do you need to be a good bartender? Well, same kinds of things, right? You need to be able to remember drinks, remember customers, be able to tell jokes, be interesting. So, and for somebody who's in law school, being a bartender is just a part-time thing. The guy who owns the bar knows you're not going to make this a career, but the trade-offs are worth it. Okay, you're going to be better than anybody else I can hire, most likely. You're not going to steal because you're not going to jeopardize your career, your future as a lawyer by stealing. And customers are going to like you and you're going to be interested, et cetera, et cetera. So, not uncommon for people to have a pay the bills job while they're waiting for their income. Same with us. Okay, so those are the 6 steps from the employment planning workshop. Today our focus is the resume. The resume is vitally important for a couple of reasons. The first reason is, the first way to think about it is, it's the ticket to the interview. If the resume is not good, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to be interviewed. And today, as deep learning, AI get involved in sorting through resumes, looking for keywords, trying to help find a fit, the resume is more important than ever before if you want to have a really good job. Good employers are more sophisticated every day about hiring because they're always looking for the best people. So you could be the best person, but if they don't know that, you're not going to get the opportunity. So the resume is the ticket to the interview. That means the resume has to be perfect, because if it's a good job and a lot of people are applying for the job, there's going to be less time spent reviewing your resume the first time. And it kind of develops an attitude of the person looking at the resume that, if you can't even make your resume look good, you can't do the job. And I don't really need to think about you because there's plenty of people in here who can probably do the job just as well as you can, or almost as good, and they're able to produce a resume that looks good. It doesn't have typos, it doesn't have grammatical errors, that doesn't have bad formatting, that looks good. So if you can't do the simple things, you probably can't do the hard things. And if you can't even get your goddamn resume probably can't do your job right. That's the attitude that tends to seep into somebody reviewing hundreds of resumes. It's hard to avoid that. So the resume needs to be perfect. We have a template for a resume that's perfect. The other thing about the resume is it has to look somewhat unique, not too unique, but somewhat unique in that you just didn't copy someone's resume or you didn't use a resume writing service. Because again, when the reviewing resumes start seeing a pattern, oh, this resume was done by Monster.com. Oh, this resume was done by Indeed. Oh, this resume was done by Career Builders. It gets to be, well, once again, we have somebody here who can't even produce their own goddamn resume. And they're probably, if they're on Monster.com, they're probably sending out 50 resumes a day. They don't really care about us. They care about getting a job. So let's look for something good. So we have the format of a resume that is different enough looking to draw attention, but similar enough looking that it's easy to follow and it gets the message across. We have a lot of different fonts and formats and things like that in it that make it look good, but it's just a skeleton. It's not a just fill in your name and stuff and send it off. It's a thing that you have to build, and coincidentally or parenthetically, you need to have a different resume for each employer. So for example, what does that mean? Let's say you want to get a job selling hamburgers at a fast food hamburger place. And let's say you're interviewing McDonald's, you want to go to McDonald's, Burger King, and In-N-Out. We can all say, yeah, those are fast food hamburger joints. But do they see themselves the same way? No. How do I know that? Because I can go to their website, I can go to the About Us section, and I can read the history and what their philosophy is and what's important to them, and I'll see, wow, these are very different from one another. McDonald's cares about nutrition. Five Guys or In-N-Out cares about the quality of the food and it's made to order, et cetera, et cetera. Burger King, have it your way, whatever it is. Flame broiled, whatever the thing is, they all see themselves differently. So why would you have the same resume for those companies? What you need to do is customize the resume. So you go to the websites of the three companies, McDonald's, Burger King, In-N-Out. You copy and paste the section about us into a separate document for each. You look for keywords, and then you find the words that match attributes that you have. So for example, McDonald's talks about nutrition, and when you're talking about yourself or what's important to you, if you care about nutrition, then you want to highlight that because that's important to McDonald's. If you care about uniqueness, and that's something important to Burger King, then those are the things to accentuate in yourself. And it doesn't take that much longer. Maybe it takes 2 hours longer to create a resume that's separate for Burger King versus In-N-Out versus McDonald's. Maybe you have to spend 6 hours doing resumes, but you should ask yourself, isn't it worth it? I want to get a job. I want to get the best possible job. And I want to get the best possible benefits and the best possible pay. Isn't it worth spending 2 hours per resume to get that job? If your answer is no, then you probably should go back and rethink your initial thought that it's not worth it, because it should be worth it. So the resume is vitally important. It has to be unique enough to draw attention and not look like, oh, this person can't even do their own resume, but it has to be similar enough so that people aren't looking for flecks of gold in the string, that it's easy to follow, it's easy to understand, and it should include the things that are important to that employer. So those are some of the key things about a resume in terms of building the resume. Spend time to get it right. Have the format of the resume be shared with everyone that wants it. Okay, the second thing about the resume is if you get the interview, if you do get the interview, then you need to get your brain wrapped around the idea that they like the person here, they like this person, they like the person in the resume. The purpose of the interview is to decide, are you that person? Otherwise, why do we need to interview you? Because we can just hire you right based on the resume. If the resume was accurate, we could hire you, but just based on the resume. Why we don't need to do an interview? Okay? But I need to figure out, are you actually, if I'm the interviewer, are you actually the person who's on this resume? Because I like this person. I think this person could be a fit with our company. We had 800 people apply for this job. I'm interviewing 10 people. I've got to whittle down to 10. This is a person who I think could be that. Is this you? Did you create the resume? Did you have somebody create the resume for you? Is it true? Is this stuff true or is it not true? Are you actually a fit with us? And the problem is, if you didn't write the resume, in other words, if you cheated, it's not you, it's represented, and they ask you, did you cheat, did you misrepresent, you're probably going to say no. Because if you lie creating your resume, you'd probably lie if you got asked whether you lied creating the resume. Thus, they can't ask you the truth, so how do they figure out the truth? Well, they have to do things to test to see whether you're telling the truth. Now, disclaimer, not everybody does this, but if you plan for the most difficult thing, everything else looks easier. So assume that what I'm saying is accurate. Might not be accurate for the place you're interviewing. Just assume it's accurate, because if it is accurate and you're not prepared, you're going to lose. If it's not accurate and you're prepared, you're not going to lose. It's not going to hurt you. So prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Always start relationships out telling the truth. Never start a relationship out telling a lie. You should never send in a resume or in your interview lie about things. You don't start relationships based on lies. Okay, so they're trying to figure out, is this you? So one way to think about it is, this is a game of spy versus spy. They're going to try to trap you because you're not going to volunteer the truth. You might not volunteer the truth, maybe you will, but they don't know that. They don't know you. So they're not going to assume that you're going to tell the truth, because if they assume you're going to tell the truth and you're lying, that's going to be bad for them. It's better for them to assume you're not telling the truth, test for that, and if they can't find out that you don't fit, then that means you do fit. And you might have to replay that a couple of times, because it's kind of high-level, convoluted logic, but it's accurate. So, some of the things that they could do in the resume, in the interview, is say, let me get a prop here. So we'll say this piece of paper is a resume. So they could say, step back, they could say this is a resume. They could say, okay, Edward, tell me about this last job right here. And they're pointing on the resume. They're pointing to this last job you had at Burger King. Tell me about this last job you had at Burger King, right here. So this is kind of like what a magician does in this direction. And then you'll start talking about the job, and they're focused on you. You start talking about it, and then they interrupt you 10 seconds into it and say, wait a second, that's not what this says right here. Now, it could absolutely say that. They just want to test your reaction. Because what if you didn't write your resume? And they say, that's not what this says right here. What is your immediate reaction going to be? Immediate response going to be? It's going to be, what does it say? Deer in headlights. And they're going to get, okay, so I already know this person isn't exactly telling me the truth. It's another reason to write your resume, so you know what it says. Now, if you do get in that position and you did write your resume, and they said, wait a second, that's not what it says right here, then your confusion is going to be like, what? Can't you read what it says? Not that you're going to say that, but that's the reaction you're going to get is, what do you mean it doesn't say that? Versus, oh, what does it say? If you didn't write it, your reaction is going to be, what does it say? Versus, if you did write it, your reaction is going to be, can't you read? That's exactly what it says. Now, you're not going to be rude and say, what are you, an idiot? That's exactly what it says. Or what are you, you're not going to do that. But your immediate response is going to be versus, oh shit, what does it say? Because I just read it a couple times briefly, but I didn't write it. So I don't really know what it says, but I kind of know what it says, and I was paraphrasing it. And so that's the kind of thing to expect. Now, tomorrow is going to be the interview process, so I'm not really going to get into the interview. I'm just using that to stress the point that the purpose of the interview is to see if you're really the person who this resume describes. Is this you? Because I like this person. I don't know you. You say you're this person. I need to figure out whether it's true. And, you know, in fairness, this resume doesn't give the whole thing of who you are. It's just a small little sliver of who you are. So I need to know you to see if you're a fit. But the resume was the ticket. Thus, don't underplay the time you need to spend to get the resume perfect. Attitude should be, it has to be perfect. Not, well, it's good enough, or golly gee, I spent 15 minutes working on this, and Beavis and Butthead's on, so I gotta go watch TV. This is a thing that this is a foundational thing. And if you think in terms of this position, that you're gonna have this job as a sliver in time that creates the profile of who you are, this, where you get a job is very important. What you do in that job is very important. And so the resume is a vital thing. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we're going to talk about interviewing, get into the interview, and you need to be prepared. So the simple preface to tomorrow is you need to have a toolkit. Step back. You need to walk in with the toolkit, and you need to have many tools in the toolkit. And you need to know which tool to pull out of your toolkit to solve the problem, or to tell the story, or whatever it is that you're doing. You have different tools. Because as Nolan Bushnell will say, is if your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. So if you walk in with a toolkit with one tool in it, a hammer, you're going to try to figure out how to use that hammer on everything that you do. Whereas it's better to walk in with a whole bunch of stuff and be prepared. So for example, to quickly identify what kind of mood is this person in right now? How do I bond with that person? Is it possible to bond with the person interviewing me, and figure out how to do that? So that's for tomorrow, big day tomorrow. Today, focus on the resume. We'll give you copies of that, of our template. Thank you.